Hello, my friend. Today we are going to install PostgresSQL and the pgadmin. So far, our memory has been used to store data in order to focus more on learning Nest.js functions. But from now on, we will connect the database, like a Postgres, to the application and store the data in the database. So we will use Postgres as our database. So two programs we need to install are the Postgres and pgadmin. pgadmin is for a tool to view the database. So to install the Postgres on Windows, you can go to this website. For the Mac, you can go to this website. For the pgadmin, both on Windows and Mac can go to this website pgadmin.org download. So if you have already installed the PostgreSQL and the pgadmin, first we need to turn on the PostgreSQL to start the database. So if you just turn on the PostgreSQL, you can see this screen and you can just click this star to start this PostgreSQL. And then we need to go to pgadmin. So I'm going to turn on that. So if you come in here, so first you get this unlock saved password. So please enter your master password. You can just enter any password you want to set as a master password for the pgadmin. I'm going to type it and then click OK. And then in here we need to create a server first. So you can just click add new server, or you can just click this create. So I'm going to create the server, and then you can give the name of this server. So for me, just the port, and we go to this connection tab. For the host name and address, I'm going to type localhost and then give the 54324 port. And for username, I'm going to give the Postgres. And for the password, I will just type the Postgres. And I will just click the save password, and then I'm going to click the save button to create the server. So you may get this board server here, and then in here we can just create the database by click this one, and just for me for the database name, just I will type board project. You can just give any name you want to have for this database. So I will click this save. So now you have a board project database. So now we are ready to use the database, the Postgres database. So in our next video, we will get to know this TypeORM. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friends, today we are going to make an introduction to TypeORM. That is the object relational mapping. First, if we see the TypeORM, what is TypeORM? So TypeORM is an object relational mapper library that runs on Node.js and is written in TypeScript. TypeORM supports multiple databases such as MySQL and Postgres and MariaDB and SQL. Just it supports so many databases. And now we want to know what is ORM. So the operation of automatically transforming and linking objects and data in relational databases. So development with ORM is flexible for object database transformation. In here there is object and the relational database. And in here object, like object-oriented programming, uses class, but the relational database use table. So if you want to mapping between them, object and relational database, there is a mismatch between the object model and the relational model. So try mapping them. So we need to use this ORM, object relational mapping. So this one is object and this one is relational. So we need to map them together. So if you look at here, so this one is a TypeORM versus a pure JavaScript. So when we use the pure JavaScript, when we try to select some data from the database, we can just do it like that. DB query and select everything from birth, where, like this. But if we just use the type ORM, we can just do it like this. It is way much simpler than this one. So if we look at here, type ORM features and benefits. So automatically create database table schemas based on the model. So if we make a model for the table, so automatically they create the database table schemas and easily insert and update and delete object from the database. Like this. This one is much easier than this one. So create mapping between tables. So this one is for the relational. So we will do it later. The one-to-one relationship or many-to-one relationship like that. And provide simple CLI comments. And type ORM is easy to use or ORM framework with simple coding, and type ORM integrates easily with other modules. So in this project, we are going to use the type ORM with the Postgres. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friend, today we are going to connect the database to the application. So to do that, there are some modules that we need to install in our application. So first one is the Nest.js type ORM. This one is the module to link to use type ORM in Nest.js. And there is also TypeORM module, and this one is just a TypeORM module, and then PG for the Postgres module. So we need to install these three modules. So come to our text editor and then turn on our terminal and npm install Nest.js TypeORM and TypeORM and PG and save. So now we have the module we need for the database installed in our application. So we are ready to connect the database to our application. So first we need to make the file like for the type ORM configuration. We are going to use the type ORM for our database. So when we just create the schema or when we insert the data into the database, we are going to use the type ORM. So that's why we need to make type ORM configuration. So for that, inside the src folder, we are going to create configs folder, and then we're going to make the type ORM config ts file inside this configs folder. So we come in here, and then so inside this src folder, so we make the file name folder names configs, and inside this configs we're going to make the file name typeorm config and ts. So we need to make the typeorm configuration here. So if we come in here, typeorm configuration file, so in here we can just database information we made in the PG admin 4. So we just create this database. At the times we gave host and then port and username and password. So to connect this database, we actually need to configure that configuration in our application. So export const type ORM config type ORM module options, and inside in here we can just write the type for this one. We are going to use the Postgres, and then the host for the database is local host, and for the port we are using the default port for the Postgres 5432, and the username was Postgres, and the password and Postgres, and database. For me, I give the board project name like that. So board project, and we also need to write down this entity. Entity is their name. You can just type like this. Uh, Entity JS or TS. So this means if you come in here, entity to be loaded for this connection. So later we are going to create the entity. So inside the entity we are going to give the property like name or description or title or ID. So by using this entity, this database create the table. So we need to specify where that entity's files are. So we are going to use the TypeScript for that entity file, and then we will make this pass. So that's why we specify like this. And then we also need to give the synchronize true. Synchronize true. This means you can see here it synchronize indicates if database schema should be auto created on every application launch. So be careful with this option and don't use this in production. So this schema should be auto created on every application launch. So we can actually lose the data inside that database if that is in production mode. So inside this production mode, we need to change this one into false, but now we are in the development mode, so that's why I just type the true in here. So we are done just creating the config file. So to use this config, we actually need to connect the database into application. So to do that, we can put that TypeORM configuration inside the M module. So whatever we use inside Nest.js as an application, that if that is the service or if that is a controller or anything, we actually need to register them inside the module. So we come in the M module in here, inside the import here, type ORM module for root. Then we're going to bring the TypeORM config we just made. If we can do it like this, we can use this the TypeORM. We can use the database in our application. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friend. Today we are going to create an entity for a board. So why do we need to create an entity? Let's first look at when we create a database table without the ORM. So for us, that to be the type ORM. So we just need to type like that. Create table board ID and title and description. So create a table like this without the ORM. However, when using type ORM, it is class that is converted to a database table. So instead of doing the above, create a class and define columns in it. So we're going to create the class inside the entity file. So if you see here, like when we create the board table, so we need to give ID, title, description, status. So in here without the ORM, we specify like this ID, title, description, and but we need to use the class because we are using ORM. So we first specify the property like ID title, and we give the column decorator to indicate this one is the column, and this ID is the primary key for this board table. So we specify primary generated column. So if you come in here, entity, the entity decorator class is used to indicate the board class is an entity, and this is part of the create table board. This entity is this one. So this is a part of the create table board. This one is same as this part, create table board. And we can also see primary generated columns. The primary generated column decorator class is used to indicate the ID column is the primary key column of the board entity, this one. And the column decorator class is used to represent other columns such as the title, description of the board entity. So we are going to type this one in our text editor. So come to our text editor. So first we need to make the entity file inside the board folder. Here name will be board entity.ts. So in here we give the entity decorator first and export and class board and extends base entity, and the first property is the ID, that will be the number. We will give primary generated column and column decorator for the title property, string, description, column status, and this one is for the status. So now the entity class board is now created. So TypeORM automatically creates a table corresponding to the board entity in the database and names it board. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friends, today we are going to create a repository. So first we need to know what is repository. So the repository works with entity object and handles finding, inserting, updating, deleting entities, and more. Also inside the repository, we are going to deal with the database related logic. So usually we did that inside this service, like in here. So but now we are going to make the repository here, and then for the database related thing we put them inside this repository, not inside this service. So work related to our database can be done in the repository, not in the service. This is also called the repository pattern. So database related work, that is insert and find and delete. So first we need to create a repository. So the repository file name is, if that is related to board, and board repository and ts. So come to our text editor and we make the file name board repository and ts. After that, we need to create a class for the repository in the created file. So we can create the repository class like this. So export class and board repository and extend repository board. This one is the board entity we just made, and here so extend the repository class when creating. We also need to extend this repository class. So by using this one, we can control entity such as find, insert, delete, and we also need to put the specific entity here. So we are dealing the board entity inside this board repository, so that's why we need to put that board in here. If you see this entity repository decorator, this one is used to declare a class as a custom repository. So we are declaring this class is for the repository. A custom store can manage some specific entity, or it can be a generic store. So we are going to make this one inside this board repository ts. So we come in here. So entity repository board and export board repository extends repository class, and we need to put that board entity here. And in order to use the created repository in other places, so import it from the board module. So to use this repository, we also need to register this one inside this board module. So like this, import TypeORM module for feature board repository we just created. This one. So inside the board module, import TypeORM module for feature and for the repository. So now we created the repository. So by using this database, from next section, we're going to make the CRUD application. So thank you for watching this video and see you later.